Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blacksher, broadcasting live from the city of diversity, Oakland, California. Today, I hope that all will be safe on the 4th of July holiday. The weekend of the 4th has been delayed going on a year now because of the pandemic. I know those of us who are vaccinated will enjoy small gathering and participate in family gathering. Please exercise caution, something we missed out on due to the COVID this year. So stay safe, stay COVID free, and enjoy the 4th of July with your family. As we are sitting at the table, as we are sitting here right now, and before the show got started, I was thinking about the most impactful way to address this holiday weekend, which will once again put small gatherings of us together. When you are talking around the table, I want you to think several things here. And the first is most important. Are we sitting at the table or are we on the menu at the table? And I use that because I was talking to a couple of friends and they were saying, well, Doug, I have a book for you to read. And I go, man, I barely have any time to read anything. I explained to them that I'm a member of the City of Oakland Community Policing Advisory Board. And they send me about 300 to 500 pages a month to read regarding things in the city. I'm an alternate delegate for the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. I get about 100 to 300 pages per month to read. So when I go to the committees, I'm informed on two things. What politicians are looking out for people who look like us on this podcast. And the second thing, legislation that will help our community. Because as Larry Lewis, who's going to be a guest on the show today, pointed out, in areas where there have been deprived of valuable resources, health, education, clean air, and groundwater. When you go to those cities that have those resources, you have a higher percentage of graduates, you have a higher percentage of people going to college, you have low and very few health issues, et cetera, et cetera. So when you are sitting around the table today and tomorrow and this weekend and enjoying the 4th with your family, please talk about more than who can throw the football the farthest, who can shoot the best, who can run the fastest. Talk about who's graduating from high school and what are you going to do after you graduate. Talk about if you don't want to go to college, talk about what trade schools you can take and do and start as apprentices, journeymen, and make good money, and then be able to move forward if you decide to go to college later. But make those interactions a positive interaction on your young people. I've had the opportunity to see several, many white, how can I say this diplomatically, white roundtable family discussion. And one of the things that I found is most different than black. White people talk about these things and we do not. So keep that on your agenda. I also want to give special thanks out to Magnolia Engineering and Construction, as Tammy Willis went to several matchmaking ceremonies today, which not today, but over the past week, one which would include several county projects that are coming up, and some of the local community college projects that are coming up. They're looking to have Black and Black women-owned businesses have a significant role on these projects. So let's keep our eye once again on the legislation that is designed in the past to be exclusive for people who look like the people who are on this podcast here. And I think Lynn could testify that we have to keep our eye on that political ball, because if We don't have it written in the legislation. And Lynn, thank you for showing up today, because I want to refer on you when I'm talking contracts and how people like us are going to get involved, going to get to make that money, or going to be excluded as we have been in the past.
No problem. I'm here.
Yes, yes. Second, today's show, we're going to light it up. We're going to light it up. We're going to light it up. And the reason why I say that is politics in Oakland and the current political race for state assembly, which concluded on June 29th, and the 4th of July cookout and the lessons to pass on to the present of our young generation this weekend. Our guest today will include, as always, our triple, quadruple shot of double Hennessy, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Department Chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at the University of the West. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Ashley. You, as long as I'm hosting this show, you will always be a guest and you will always be an asset to what we're trying to do. Strengthen the mind of our people in business, whether it be working for someone or running your own business, because the psychological effect of not being prepared, getting into a pit where you have lions and tigers trying to rip your head off and rip your wallet out your pocket. If you don't know how to fight that, you will lose every time. I'm going to ask Mr. Lynn Turner, can you give us a brief, and I'm throwing the ball at you real quick. How important is it to understand the psychology of the game of being a business owner and being prepared psychologically for the mudslinging that goes on there?
So this is what I tell most people who want to get into construction. You're in residential. The residential construction is a whole lot more forgiving than commercial. Residential is more structured around if you have the trade skill set in brick and mortar. Commercial is more paperwork, it's more politics, it's more what were you just saying, Doug? I forgot the word you used, but you have to be mentally prepared when you transfer over from residential to commercial. That's where all the major players are, and that's where the politics are. And if you are not mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, and all those other things, if you're not ready for that game, then you shouldn't get into it. And so the Construction Resource Center, and I'm so thankful to Doug for allowing us to continually be on his show. But the Construction Resource Center was set up just for that. It's teaching you how to play the game. It is a game, and you need to be taught the game. And it's not rocket science. It's just a system. And once you get that process and the system down, then now you're ready to play. But if you're not prepared, then it's pretty much gonna run you over and eat you up. So Doug, I have somebody waiting to get in. Mario, who is our speaker, he is up and coming contractor, doing very well. Went through our course several years ago and has, in my opinion, benefited 100-fold. He is doing great, and he wanted to talk a little bit about his company and how Construction Research Center prepared him for that, and all of the things that he's gone through and been able to come through because of it.
Dr. Ashley, do you mind if we go off script? Because
I'm sorry.
No problem. Flexibility is the name of the game. Flexibility. So absolutely.
And the most important thing, this brother looks a little bit younger than you and I, Lynn.
He's like a son.
well, Mario Wagner, welcome to the show. And we need young men and women out there talking to young men and women about all the opportunities that they have. So if it's okay with Dr. Ashley, we get our dose out, but we want to let you chime in and let us know what's going on out there and how you are being successful, because I know as a contractor, and Lynn knows, time is money. Go ahead, Mr. Mario Wagner.
It looks like we might have lost it. Oh, well. Sorry, Mario. Oh, yeah, we did lose him.
Okay, well, that's okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Ashley. He's trying to come back on, but I really appreciate you being flexible. But Mario, you went out. Are you on now? Oh, now you're locked up.
Hey, don't say locked up. We may take it personally.
Okay.
We don't want to get
no. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Lynn,
your frame is frozen.
Is it still frozen?
I'm here. Can you hear?
Oh, yeah, we can kind of hear you, but your connection is bad, Mario.
Can you? Yeah. Let me see.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Hold on. Okay. Well, if you can you hear me now? Good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I started off in construction, working with my dad and uncle. Coming up as a kid in construction, it was fun. It was something for us to actually look forward to. You know, besides school, on the weekends and any days that we had out of school, we went and spent that time with my dad on the job site. So I have 2 brothers and some cousins, and pretty much outside of school and being at home, we were pretty much on the job site learning how to work with each other, and that just was pretty much flooring. So we started off with a flooring company, and when I got about 18 years old, of course, the family business kind of dwindled and fell by the wayside because of management. And I found CRC, Turner Group Construction, and I said that's a model for what it is that we needed to implement in our own business.
Mario,
so I started.
Mario, let me ask you a quick question, because this is so important. What do you mean when you said about management? Please be more precise, because a lot of minority businesses do not understand how, and Lynn and I know because we had to deal with it on a family and a business level. What exactly do you mean about management? Please.
So one of the most important things that I learned from not being a part of the management team when it comes to our flooring business was that the information belonged to one person. And once I got the example from CRC, it was like this information is spread between many people, and different people play different roles and had different responsibilities. So what I did was I included my younger sister. I'm 34 and she's 30 now. And I was like, hey, quit your job and come work with me so we can build a family business and be successful. And the model that we had, like I said, was CRC and Turner Group Construction. So what we ended up doing was learning all we could from Lynn and Tanya and all the rest of the Turners in order for us to be able to grow. And from the classes that we were able to take with CRC, it went not only from a flooring company to now what we have is a flooring company, a specialty flooring company, and a general construction company. And like Lynn said, we starting off in residential, but we've also been able to take it to a commercial level where we're starting to do more and more commercial projects. But management is key, and understanding how to process paperwork and do the administrative side of construction is the important part. People think construction is more so hammer and nails, but it's really it expands across all different sectors.
Let me, because we have our special guest on here, Janani. So let me ask you a few. Will you have time to come on later in the show so we can kind of stay on point? Because what you have stated is the downfall. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Mario. Mario, what you have stated. Yeah, Mario, what you have stated is the downfall of so many, specifically African-American businesses. We have a person who is running for State Assembly, District 18, Janani Ramachandran. And it would be so important for her to hear, because she's a young sister too, young attorney who's running for Rob Bonta's seat, and Rob Bonta's wife is running for Rob Bonta's seat. So let her know specifically how her future role as assembly member can impact and have positive or negative effects on your young Black business. Because as we all know, 86 cents out of every dollar in Oakland, and that's out of $450 million, go to white men. So let her know what she can do for your business. Thank you.
Well,
or businesses like yours.
One of the most important things that can be done is for the state, the city, the county to invest in small businesses, small local businesses. With training, we need training. We need to understand the components of what it takes in order for us to run a business, especially African American businesses. And the reason why is because so many Black businesses that have been left behind, to the point where in order for them to be able to come up, they have to be first educated. And that's the number one thing. You know, a lot of what we've learned is because we've actually had firsthand information and it was given to us where we didn't have to fight for it. You know, by us having so much information at our fingertips, it made all the difference. You know, if by the city and the county and all the different agencies not willing to give us the information that we need, it makes it that much harder.
Well, let me ask you.
So let me say something, Doug, on that too, because how she can help is capital. All these companies need capital. You need training, you need capital, you need a place. Where do they go to get a CPA? Where do they go to get an attorney? Where do these businesses go to understand their back and front office support that they need? Because typically, when you're a small company, you don't have enough money to hire the people that you need. So
a bank won't let you borrow the money if you have
your
$1 million contract.
Suffers.
They won't let you borrow $10.
So,
sorry about that. I had
your office suffers. Yeah, no problem. So you typically have your daughter or your young niece in there, or your son who can spell well or good with the computer. But we have to understand that if we are building a business, we have to build it with professionals. And if we have these professionals, we have to afford them. And in order for us to afford them, we have to be able to bid contracts with all of that information and the different items that we need in order to make up a complete bid that helps run our office successfully. And a lot of times, most minority companies don't understand that huge picture. So when they put together a bid, typically their truck that's paid for is not in the bid. Their cell phone that's paid for is not in their bid. Their tools, their small hand tools is not in their bid. But when you start to work with these larger DCs that understand that process, then you start to see, oh, I should have been charging. This is why I'm not making any money. This is why my office isn't the way it should be, because you really don't understand the game you're in. So we have to understand what game we're in and what we're trying to play for before we can start to truly take advantage of what I think you offer, because your platform is huge and it has a lot of things to do with policy change. And that's a whole nother area that we probably need to discuss as well.
I would like to take a moment. Mario, if you can stay on here with us, I would like to introduce our special guest. I'm giving you a title as a sister. So that's huge. That's a sister. You get a sister title. Our guest speaker, the woman, the candidate, the woman who ran a fraction of the amount of money the other candidate had was almost $1 million, and I believe, and she will let us know. Janani Ramachandran. She is our guest speaker and a candidate for the state assembly in this month's special election. She and the past assembly district wife are running 1 and 2 for the seat. Can you introduce yourself, Mrs. Janani? Because some people tell me I talk to her. I can talk about you all day, girl. Introduce yourself first off, and if you could address some of the questions as Mr. Mario, what was the name of that company that's prepared you for success again? And he's on the show here today.
CRC.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. Take it away, Janani.
Thank you so much, Doug and Dr. Ashley, for again inviting me to be here. I'm honored now to say that I am a candidate for state assembly, but I'm one of the top 2 finalists that will be facing Mia Banta in a runoff on August 31st. And
excuse me 1 second. Who is Mia Banta's husband? Mia Banta's husband?
Rob Banta, our state attorney general.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted our audience to know who the players are. Thank you.
And that's what I'm up against. And one of the things that I'm fighting for is to support small minority-owned businesses, because while the big corporations have a seat at the table in Sacramento, while many of them are funding Mia Banta's campaign that's already raised well over $1 million and will probably raise 2, 3, maybe more million against me, who doesn't have a seat at the table are minority-owned small businesses, are Black-owned businesses in Oakland. And that matters in terms of policy. At the start of the pandemic, one of the first few things I did was volunteer with a program that helped small business owners in Oakland apply for federal funding, for CARES Act funding. And the disparities in who got that money and who didn't was never more apparent. This was not an issue of how much money the state was spending. It was the equity. It was which types of businesses had the technical know-how, had the lawyers and the accountants and all of that to get to that flow of money versus those without that technical know-how and capital to be able to access the funding that should have gone to all heavily hit businesses due to COVID. So that's something that certainly drove me to start wanting to prioritize small businesses as part of my platform.
May I ask you a question? How much money did you raise against that $1 million?
I raised about $210,000.
So you raised a fifth of the state attorney general wife running for the same position that you are running for. Is that correct?
I did. And, you know, it shows that people power is what ultimately makes a difference. I'll never raise nearly as much money as she's raising. And, you know, a quarter of her money comes from the gambling industry. A significant part comes from medical insurance companies, various industries that are trying to buy favor with the state attorney general, with Mia Banta, the candidate's husband. And that's not how politics should work. We shouldn't have large corporations buying our elections. We need to have the district represented and the variety of people and businesses and nonprofits and community groups that make up this district having a voice. And the fact that with less than a fifth of the money I got this far shows that voters are ready to stand up to these special interest groups and ready to fight for policy changes that are going to serve us, because right now the status quo is not working.
If I may ask you a question, what is your position? And since we have CRC and a graduate of his program, and I'm a graduate of the program, what is your position as it relates to funding programs that are designed to not just get a company in business, but keep them in business first. Second, working with banking institutions, government agencies, etc., SBA, etc., to give them that working capital so that they can take their company to the next level. What would you do to what could you say to this young man and other small businesses across this county that you would do to help create more inclusiveness in regards to contracting on this $1.9 trillion that's coming down the pipeline? Thank you.
What Len had said earlier was exactly it. The access to capital is key because we know the statistics of the number of small businesses that fail. I forgot if it was 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10 or something like that, but significant. You could have the best idea in the world, but sustaining that great idea and turning it into a successful medium-sized company or sustainable business takes sustained capital, not just that great idea. And, on one half of my family, I come from union workers. On the other half, I come from small business owners, from minority-owned small business owners. My parents were immigrants, and without, they were able to, take their ideas and opportunities because of sustained access to capital, a little bit of luck, and community support. And then that's what I think we need to do. It's not a one-off, we support you, here's an initial seed grant and run with the wind. It's a continuous training. As an attorney, for example, I did some workers' rights work in the past. And when I would get calls and need to give referrals for workers' rights issues, which there are a great many, for sure, because there are a lot of workers working for large corporations who work in unsafe work conditions, who experience wage theft and unsafe work environments and all of that. But there are plenty of places for me to refer someone to. But when I started working with small business owners, small restaurants, small grocers, etc., during the pandemic, I couldn't think of places to refer someone to get an attorney. There were many small business owners that wanted to make sure they were in compliance with the health and safety regulations, that wanted to see how they can take advantage of some of the complicated state grants and funding. And a free attorney is incredibly hard to find, or an affordable attorney to help small business owners is extremely hard to find. And we need to change that. So one of the things that I'm personally interested in is setting up a free and low cost legal assistance program, not only for workers, but for small minority business owners.
How can we get in contact with you in your campaign so that we can know exactly what your platform is? That's for question one. Question two is, how can we donate to you? Because I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do not take corporate money, so you're not a bought and paid politician like some of the other people running against you. Can you elaborate on that, please? Thank you.
Unbought and unbossed. That's our Shirley Chisholm unofficial sub-slogan. Individuals are very, very welcome to contribute to our campaign, because even though we're never going to raise as much money, we definitely need funds to be able to spread the word. There are people who, thankfully we got this far, but there were people whose doors I knocked on who said, "Oh, I didn't vote for you, but if I knew about your campaign and your message and what you're fighting for, I completely would have." And I'm like, now's your chance. We just need to spread the word through the ads, through the calls, through some mailers, to tell people this is what we're about. We're not going to be flooding people and bombarding people, but we need enough to get the word out. So you can visit my website, janani4ca.com. There's a link to contribute over there. There's more elaborate platform. There's our email address. Would absolutely love to get in touch. Yeah, there's an email address listed there. I respond personally to every single email. I want to like I mentioned before, be a voice for the community, not special interests. And, I'm not only going to do this during the campaign, but I promise I will continue to do this when in office.
Yeah, you and I had the privilege of speaking a few weeks ago, and you called me because Gene Hazard is probably the biggest fan of yours. I hear about it. He actually texted me something this morning, so I know a lot about what you're doing, and I really appreciated your message when we spoke on the phone, and I said that, and I appreciate you being here today to tell us more.
Thank you.
I would like to say, Janani, that we have had the ILWU president, Trent Willis, and I'm going to say it the way I said it when he came on. Brother who could shut down the Pacific Coast, Trent Willis, ILWU president. He is really in your corner. Just recently, he had you on stage with Angela Davis, while she received a award, or excuse me, she received a lifetime membership with the ILWU, and only one person other than her received that award, and that was Dr. Martin Luther King. Can you tell me how that impacted you, and once you are elected, how you are going to pattern yourself for all people? But Angela Davis excited me because I was there when she spoke. How she made sure that all people, and I do mean all people, have an opportunity to grow and prosper in this time right now. Thank you.
It was a magical moment being on stage with her. It was being in the presence of a force. But really, what inspired me in that moment, and what continues to inspire me, is to speak my mind and be bold and fearless in the way that she has, in the way that ILWU has. I'm honored to have the endorsement of trailblazing organizations like the ILWU, like the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club, like Oakland Tenants Union, and so many other groups, because that's who I want to be. I'm going to speak my mind and be 150% honest all the time. I want to be someone that's known for having integrity and honesty, which unfortunately don't seem common among all political leaders. And that's how I launched this campaign from day one with the Port of Oakland. Before we found out that this Howard Terminal project was going to cost taxpayers, Oakland taxpayers, over $1 billion, it was politically unpopular to say you did not support the Howard Terminal. But I went to a couple of Oakland East Bay Democratic Club meetings, Coliseum Task Force meetings. I was invited to visit the Howard Terminal along with ILWU. And what I saw was this project was unfeasible. It would harm 85,000 jobs we have at the port. It would harm industries in the area that rely on the port. It would harm minority-owned small businesses, Black-owned small businesses. The majority of workers at the port live in Oakland and represent our community. And to me, I saw the injustice of this terminal threatening all of that, and so I spoke up against it. And I didn't care what people had to say. Thankfully, now that people know the many other consequences that are going to flow from the project, including massive gentrification with this 3,000 new condos that are proposed, I hope, to continue to spread the word about the dangers of this project. But yeah, the way that I was inspired to speak up then is the way I will continue to speak up about anything that I find is unjust moving forward, in collaboration with all of you.
And unlike the person you're running against, her husband, who was in your in the position that you're running for right now. My understanding, his position is with the Fisher family, and I don't say Oakland A's because this has nothing to do with the Oakland A's. I love the A's. We all here, I believe, can say we love the A's, but it would not be feasible, economically logical for African Americans who work as longshoremen and the 85,000 other union people? And can you address the cost increase that would occur? Because instead of those ships coming into the port of Oakland, they would have to go down to LA, San Diego, Seattle. So wine producers, and other different types of shipping and producers and manufacturing of whatever type of, whether it be agricultural or other products, how would that directly affect the cost for citizens here in Alameda County? Please elaborate on that.
I mean, the price of goods would go up. The Port of Oakland is what's responsible for stocking our shelves. If corporations have to take their business to other ports, we would not only lose jobs, again, there are 85,000 jobs, at least a third of which would be threatened if this project comes in, but the cost of goods would go up, and the cost of transportation and the pollution that results from that transportation, all of this will undoubtedly have an impact on us. It will not negatively impact the Fisher family. I too grew up going to A's games. I want them rooted in Oakland. They have the opportunity to stay in Oakland, and they should choose to do that.
Thank you so much. We have enjoyed you here. We went off script because we have Mr. Wagner here, and my thing, I used to be the chairperson for the Oakland NAACP, Chair of Labor and Economic Development. That's why I really wanted this young brother, because our Black community need more young people out there engaged, because I've learned this numerous times. If you're not sitting at the table, then you're a menu on the table. Your menu, you're on the menu on the table. So if you would like to stick around and help us close out, we have Mr. Larry Lewis that just came on. But if you would like to stick around, I still have some questions that I want to ask you. The most important question I want to ask you is, every show we have leading up to the election, can you come on and see, you don't have your husband putting out over $1 million in corporate donations to get you elected. You don't have the ties that your opponent has to just walk in and say, oh, that's her husband over there, so we want to get her in. We have got to get out of this process that if your husband or your wife has an office, or your daughter or your cousin or your Aunt Tutu, we're going to get you elected. We need people in there who are going to genuinely make true effect for all people, not just big corporate billionaire pockets. So can we ask you to either stay on, or you can go on and come back, grab a bit of lunch and come back, because I am in your corner. This show is a platform for people like you who are genuinely concerned and making a difference. And if you hear Mr. Larry Lewis's story, and we've had several stories, so I'm gonna let him after you exit, I'm gonna let him talk a little bit, but I'm gonna introduce him first. We need to hear your plan, and we need our audience to hear your plan, because we have got to get these lifetime job trying to get people out of office, and we need people like you in there who's going to make a difference and look out for us, because gentrification is killing Oakland, it's killing the county, and it's killing the state. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'll come back towards the end.
Okay, and once again, you've got to hear Larry's story, because Larry came on a little while back, and he did a wonderful talk about his adventure coming out of the hood and doing good. Mr. Wagner, we hope that you can stay on a little bit longer. I know it looks like you're on your way home, but we have got to get a dose of Dr. Ashley in here, because my blood pressure has been high, Dr. Ashley, and that's because I haven't had a dose of you. So if everyone can give her her time to give us our medication before we proceed on, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you all. And Janani, congratulations. Looking forward to supporting you through August 31st. Actually, based on the comments, something that Mario said about bringing in his sister, inviting her to work with him, this collaboration spirit in light of what's upcoming this weekend and sitting at the table. What's been actually coming to mind is about mentorship and connection. Who are you helping? What is the purpose, right? What are the purpose behind these positions? Little self-disclosure, one of the privileges I have is being a department chair, being an Oakland, California native. I'm the youngest department chair at my university, University of the West. I'm the first Black department chair in psychology. And often what happens is I have students that want to hear my story, but they get to a point of, man, Dr. Coleman, so-and-so doesn't believe in me. I'm not getting the positivity that I need to get from my parents, or I'm afraid to tell people what I want to do because they're going to laugh. They're going to think it's stupid. It's outside the box. And so in preparation, when you were talking about, Doug, sitting at the table, do we listen to one another? What do we do when someone has an idea that's outside the box, right? When is the last time we've encouraged someone, challenged someone to go after what they want, but behind just challenging and supporting it, actually matching it, whether it's with financial support, moral support, and not just getting to that place, but sustaining it? That's how the change is going to come. And I think it's generational. I remember here right now, I'm on this podcast. It's a blessing. I enjoy it every week. It's such a privilege, Doug, to be on here and again, to meet other, go-getters that are doing it. But I remember being 12 saying, I want to have a show. I want to be on a show. And I remember snickers. People were like, what? In psychology, that's not for Black folks. What are you doing? What are you thinking about? You want to be a doctor, girl? You better go to med school. You better follow in so-and-so's footsteps. And so it's a reminder, but it makes me think about when we're at the table and we've missed our family, we haven't been able to connect. We can talk about a variety of things, but who are you depositing into? What are you doing with that precious time, with the youth that you want to reach? Sometimes we don't know we haven't reached that youth because we're not into what they're into. Where's that curiosity? Where's that relational investment? Who's in your circle? Who's going with you? And so that's actually what's on my mind about quality of connection. Are we reaching back and pulling forward? Are we comfortable with people being ahead of us? Right. And just thinking about the nature of just relationships, the trust, the support. Am I cheering for you? If I cheer for you when you win, are you going to cheer for me? Right. And I think, Doug, you and I have had some conversations off the camera, but when talking about what is it that kind of gets in the way and looking at the some of the stress or the generational differences. And I think it's about how do we keep that legacy going, but understanding that people, one, we need to be able to work together, whether it's family members like Mario's been able to do with his sister, right? So where's that family member being able to say, hey, I got you, come on, you have an expertise, we can join together. Where are we joining? Where are we competing where there doesn't need to be competition, right? And again, how can we connect to go forward? So there are many opportunities around the table, 4th of July, to love on one another, to, engage in catch-up conversation, but also in thinking about how will we repurpose? What's the purpose of this connection? Are we really nurturing it? And if so, how can we do that? So that's what's on my mind.
Dr. Ashley, this young man, and what psychological ammunition can you give him? Because when I was his age, and I'm assuming he's about 30, 35 years old, all I can think of is fight and not let the shark bite my leg off and not let the, and we've all discussed this, racism is still as prevalent now as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. It just has a better disguise on it. Before we turn it over to Mr. Larry, what advice can you give this young man when he feels that the white man has his knee on the back of his neck, how he could fight and pull himself up and say, hey, look, I can win? Because Lynn and I have discussed, even with you, I know I've discussed with you, but the power of the mind when you're losing, for if you don't figure it out, you can either patch that hole and get across, or your sink will ship. What kind of advice can you offer him when he feels his ship is sinking? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so when he or her feels their ship is sinking, you have to visualize it. You have to have a dream, visualize it, and nurture it when no one's watering it. You have to look to going one inside oneself. What's inside of you? Where is that ambition? Where is that mustard seed of faith? In my master's program, I was the only Black student for 2 years in Malibu. During right around the time President Obama was entering his again being elected, 2007, and so my surroundings were not really receptive in some areas. I had some wonderful mentors, and then in many ways, I was the young Black girl that drove the Black Saturn Ion, and the car that it was a thank you Lardy car that did its just due, but it was not the paparazzi chased Range Rover or the likes. But you have to see it. So in those midnight hours when you're studying, what are you listening to? What is the inspiration coming from? Who can you see from a distance, even if they're not personal mentors, who are the giants that you can study or look at and learn more about their studies? But it's about that determination and understanding that there's going to be a part of the test when the teacher is silent. So going inward, I would say.
I'd like to offer you this, Mr. Wagner, before we get our next guest in. Whatever you do, wherever you go, just remember, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, if you were trying to do this as a Black man, you could be killed. You could have your foot cut off. You could lose your life. All you have to do now is just hang on, brother. Hang on. No matter how much they throw at you, no matter what they say, believe in yourself and others will soon follow and believe in you. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Thank you.
Larry, I would like to say a few things before we turn it over to you, because we've had almost 6 hours worth of conversation in the last 3 days. So I want to say to our co-host, Everett Butler, who's hanging out with his family, Everett Butler Firm Consultant of Oakland, California. Thank you once again, Everett Butler, for being a part of making this show successful and your continued support. And we know that you're out there making a difference in the world that we live in. We also want to give a shout out to your fraternity brother from the Alpha Phi Alpha, Untitled Chapter, University of Pacific. Everett crossed in 1983. The first Black fraternity started in 1906. They started doing our homework. Second, news of today. On this day, July 1st, 1989, kidnapped Africans seized control of a La Amsterdam ship from enslavers. And this is courtesy of Equal Justice Initiative. And the reason why I brought that up, and I thought that was real critical, We have to learn to start fighting. Even if you're taken over, you don't have to give up. 1839, July 1st, kidnapped Africans seized control of La Amistad ship from enslavers. And that was 1839. Thank you. Also like to mention the ladies who are running for national office, which would include Nina Turner is running for Congress in 2021, Ohio's 11th Congressional District special election as an incumbent. Rep Marcia Fudge is serving as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. So Nina, I met her when she came out here back in 2017 when she was helping out the district attorney race. She's a wonderful person. Very, very intelligent, sharp sister. So make sure if you know anybody in the state of Ohio who can vote, if you can send some change, but dollars would be appreciated. But any money that you can send to some of these campaigns would be extremely helpful. Second, Val Demings. She's running against, and I'll use Barbara Lee's characterization of the past president. She's running against the Yam Man. I saw that, I started laughing. And y'all know what color yam is, right? She's running against the Yam Man, and that's Barbara Lee's quote of last year's president. She's running in the Florida race against little Marco Rubio. Republicans have made a spectacle of the country. With that takeover, we tried to run a coup in back in January 6, 2021, which they said there were some very fine people. Well, let me be clear. If those fine people look like anyone on the screen here, it'd be some very dead people. So let's support Val Deming running for 2022 State Senate, former Orlando police chief, seeking to unseat little Marco Rubio. And that's what Trump called him, little Marco Rubio. So little Marco Rubio, pack your bags. We're sending Val Demings to come in and clean the mess up. Thank you. I want to thank Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.news and BeMore.news for the opportunity for allowing me to host this show. Donnie, you took a big gamble, but it paid off. In addition to that, we want to thank Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Magnolia is making a difference in an industry that's been predominantly dominated by white males. Magnolia Engineering and Construction is one of less than 10 Black engineering construction companies owned in the nation. Go, Miss Tammy Willis. We got your back, sister. Now, we got a little off our course earlier today, so I'm going to bring us back on with an introduction that will speak for itself. Larry Lewis, previous guest on Black Business Roundtable. Larry retired from the military, veteran of 20 years. Larry, I was going to let you talk about your introduction, but because I was so impressed, I've been reading it off to myself for the last couple days, just saying, wow, this brother's sharp. And also, I want to briefly say the story that you're going to tell our audience is going to gut wrench your gut. It's going to make your heart cry. Larry and I grew up in Oakland, California. Larry, you have put 20 years as a Marine Corps soldier. Then you became a corporal. Then you became a sergeant. You were in the Marine Corps as an Air Corps maintenance data system analyst. You were in Desert Storm. You're a Desert Storm veteran, and an advocate for domestic violence victims and a counselor to those fighting substance abuse. Thank you for joining us and discuss what we can pass down to the next generation this coming weekend as we celebrate time with our family. And also, I want to make sure that you get in because we were talking about a brother who we graduated with, and I don't know if you want to mention his name or not, but you two were going down the same road, and where you went to the Marine, he went to prison.
Yeah.
Please let us have it. Take us away, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for the invitation. And by the way, Donnie Glover, I wanted to say thank you. I do have your book right here. I wish you could sign it for me. All right. Because I am very interested in Black Wall Street anyways. And we're going to have a chance to talk a little bit about Black Wall Street today in our topic of discussion. Hello, everybody. I wanted to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself, just so you know who you're talking to. Give you a little bit of background, if I may. I grew up in Oakland from about 1965 to about 1980 was the time that I spent there before I left and went off to the military. While I was in Oakland, I had an opportunity to experience upper class living and lower class living. All right, so I went to school at St. Pascal's in Oakland, and I spent about 7 years there, and then I went to Bishop O'Dowd for a year. All right, and then I went to the Los Angeles, and I spent the year out here at Long Beach Poly, actually in Long Beach, and then I came back and I spent the next 3 years in Sobrani Park and at Castlemont. So I had a unique experience, I guess I'll say. Like many of you, I came from broken home, divorced parents, disabled mother. She had a stroke at the age of 31. She was paralyzed. You know, I grew up in the Castlemont Apartments, left there, 94th and Bancroft, left there, and then I ended up in Sobrani Park as a foster kid. So I spent the next 3 years, 15 to 18, living with a foster family, a family that my father knew, but was new to me. And that's where
Larry, let me just chime in 1 second.
Okay.
Can you tell them the difference between Bishop O'Dowd and St. Pascal and Castlemont High School in Sobrani Park? Tell them because our audience are across the nation. So give them a comparison so they can have an idea of what, because you and I know. So please, I won't interrupt you, but please tell them the difference.
And Polly and also Polly. Throw Polly in there for our Southern California viewers. Yes.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I attribute that education that I received at a young age from I think 1968 or 1969 to about 1977. With my ability to continue to be successful. My parents were not wealthy. They were not rich, but they sacrificed. They wanted us to go to private schools. We were coming from Virginia, and that was something that coming to California that they prioritized. And there was a high expectation. So even while I was at that school, even though I didn't have the money, and those people at the school, I was going to school with people like professional athletes' children. All right, judges, children of judges, and Cliff Branch was on the Oakland Raider was on the route, the newspaper route. Veda Pinson, all those people were the kind of people I was going to school with, and so we didn't know what it meant to be broke. You know, we were just going to school, right, wearing our little Catholic uniform and going to school. But my mother had us prepared. So I was wiping the floor up academically and athletically with everybody there. All right. At least until my father left. Now, I have such a great appreciation for education and the fundamental steps to take a kid from the home and put them in education and to begin to teach them at the school system, because I learned from there. All right. There's a complete difference. There's nothing even remotely the same the expectation is first thing that that you run into. The expectation at a private school, at those schools, was so high. I mean, I was learning things like word wealth, all right, so that I would be able to have a vocabulary that I could be proud of. Everybody there was in the school, and they were there to perform. All right. When I went to when I went to the Castle, or I went even to Long Beach. Long Beach Poly is a little bit different too, because at Long Beach Poly, and let me go back to Bishop O'Dowd. When I got to Bishop O'Dowd, they gave me scholarships. By the way, white people gave me scholarships when my parents left, when my father left, and my mother got sick. I got scholarships from the 4th grade all the way through the 8th grade, and then someone gave me a scholarship in the 9th grade. Never found out who it was, but for that very reason, I'm a giving person, and I believe in paying it forward. And so my goal is to help. I help young people go to college now. My wife and I, both being educators, our goal is to support people that are trying to go to school. But anyway, Bishop O'Dowd was completely different. The support system was gone. All right. And that's one of the things that I lost, I missed. All right. I could see the education level was off the chain. All right. But the support system that I had once was no longer available to me. All right. And so I started to slide down the slope. All right. And then when I went to live with my father when my mother got sick. She had the stroke, she had a tumor, and she was taken away by my grandmother back to Virginia at about age 14. All right. And so I was told, go live with my dad. So I went out to live with my father, and that lasted about 6 months. And I got kicked out of his house, and so he took me, he had packed all my stuff up, threw it in the back of his truck, and came and picked me up from school, and drove me back to Oakland, told me I was going to go live with his friend. And so I said, okay, well, whatever. So I was very angry, all right, and very motivated at the same time. By the time I got there, I let them know that I didn't want his money, and that I would get it myself, and I would pay them the $200 that he was getting per month myself. I got a job working at Alameda at the commissary, bagging groceries, and I started paying. And I bought my first car before I turned 16. So Levi helped me buy a car at 16. I had saved up $600 and helped me, and so I was hustling, and I learned how to hustle. And that's when I ran into Everett, and things moved forward from there. All right. But bottom line is, when I got to the Castle, it was a matter of do whatever it is you want to do. It didn't matter. I was going to tell you, I couldn't remember our wrestling coach's name. I don't know if you remember, but I couldn't remember our wrestling coach's name. However,
Coach Starnell.
Coach Starnell. He was also my American government teacher, which I ditched every day. But I was at wrestling. I was at wrestling. So it was okay for me to ditch and go and come back and, wrestle. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say it was completely different. Mm-hmm.
Larry, let me give people a little perspective here.
Mm-hmm.
At Castlemont, if you went to class every day, you got to be, because they got the money that they needed for you being in class.
Yeah.
If you didn't beat the teacher up, you got an A.
All right.
If you didn't cuss the teacher out. And if you did homework, you got an A+. Because when I went to college after that, the study habits I had weren't even compatible.
Right. That's exactly the way it was. And I same way. I spent more time at Oakland High than I did at Castlemont. So it was kind of like that. And I couldn't believe that I was actually going to graduate at the end of my time. And so that's kind of the challenge that you have when you flip from one school to the other like that. And I had to come back, and I think the only way I was able to come back is I wasn't ready for college when I left high school. All right. And that's why I went into the military, because I had to make a move. I kind of aged out, and it was time for me to leave. It wasn't my house, and it was time for me to leave that house. And, the military was my family business anyway. My father was in the Navy. My older brothers were in the Army. And so I chose the Marine Corps, and my younger brother ended up doing the same, going to the Marine Corps. But, let's see, where was I? We all have these challenges. We all, so I was kind of, dealing with abandonment issues as well. But getting in the military, that was 3 hots and a cot. All right. And that was an opportunity that I think so many young people are afraid of, that they don't take advantage of because they're afraid of the military. But it was an opportunity for me. And I spent those next 20 years, 1980 through 2000. I was safe when the world was going crazy. All right. When our friends were going to jail and dying and cracked out, I missed all of that.
Larry, let me just chime in with Dr. Ashley, because what you went through have destroyed many Black boys and girls across this country.
Yeah.
Dr. Ashley, can you just elaborate a little bit on his mindset and how powerful this man must have been to have gone through his mom getting sick, going to Virginia, his dad moving to stay with him? Where'd your dad stay at?
He said Long Beach.
In Long Beach. He moved to Long Beach. His dad put his stuff in the truck, in the back of the truck, picked him up from school, drove. Can you help those who are going through those challenges now, and those parents who are putting their kids through? Can you help us out just briefly? Thank you.
Sure. Well, Brother Larry, the word that just kept coming up was resilience. When we talk about the traumatic experiences, complex trauma. So trauma in psychology is defined as a life-threatening experience to oneself or to someone close to us. So we can also be traumatized vicariously through witnessing trauma. So the neighborhoods in Oakland, by seeing certain things. Brother Larry, through your story and what you've shared, it's one thing to be traumatized. It's another thing to have chronic trauma and then unexpected loss and repeated unexpected loss. And you coped as a young person who is growing and changing and adapt. That clearly says that you're able to adapt. So I'm not surprised that then you were able to go into the military, and I imagine to adapt to new surroundings, pick up, go, it's time to go, and not have. And so there's a strength that you develop, but abandonment, and that needs to be highlighted. But abandonment in childhood has a number of potential negative health outcomes. And some of those things, again, I mentioned it last week, I'm going to mention it again, while it's largely impacting young women in Oakland, but it's also impacting men as well, is sex trafficking. There are a lot of people that run away from unhealthy environments and run to the streets and end up caught up in doing what they feel like they have to do or what someone manipulates them to do.
Sure.
But what I hear you saying, and I'm just curious to get an idea of, is there anyone in your life that you saw, looked up to? Who were those people? Because again, your story, your outcome, we want more of that, to hear what were those coping skills. But abandonment issues, neglect, lack of attention, we know that that can lead to substance use. We know that it can lead to acting out in schools, because for children, any attention is good attention. So for those teachers that are in the classroom, or, even if you say, put that down, stop that, you don't know the last time someone's been seen and what people are willing to do to be seen. So I just want to hear a little bit more about who were those people anyone in your life that was, the coach or that impacted you.
Okay. For the most part, it was my mother. All right. For that first 10 years. I mean, I can't even begin to explain the relationship that we had. There was a very high level of expectation, but imagine, remember the books that you get when you go to summertime and they're the next grade level books. Okay. So I got those every year. All right. We also went to the library. All right. And the library, I have 3 brothers. And so that meant we got 8 books. All right. And so we were reading on everything that was happening. So that foundation was the first portion, I think, of what was going on. And the next portion for me was my extended family, the boys in the hood. All right. And we began to develop, the first time when I was in apartments, you don't have that kind of relationship. You don't have that kind of support system. But once I went to Sobrani, all right, we had a support system that my friend Cal, his mother was my mother. All right. Margaret, who I was living with, was my mother. Shirley down the street, Glennie and Vince's mama was my mother. All right. And we all, and there was a whole bunch of young people my age when I got there, speaking proper, of course, you know, and probably the only thing that saved me was I was an athlete. So we could go out and play, you know, a lot of basketball, and you know, we was serving people. But that was the thing that I developed. I had a family there, all right, and that's a family that even today I maintain. I'm sure Mom's is on here watching me right now. So, you know, it eventually, and then Levi, I can't leave him out either, because Levi was there. He didn't spend a lot of time. He ended up going back to jail and this and that. So I began to see a lot of things and experience a lot of things. From there, I just had a grit. I was determined not to fail. I remember telling myself as a young boy that there's nobody there to pick me up. So you can't fail. All right. And I probably went through a lot of my life like that until, you know, I met my wife at age 21. All right. And we've been together since. We're turning 60 this year. All right. So, you know, and that was a great inspiration for me as well. She was a UCLA student. All right. And her father probably wanted to know why was she messing around with this beer drinking Marine, cussing Marine, all right, Corporal Marine. However, that's where, you know, we had a child at a young age, 24. You know, we had our first son, and that's when I knew it was time to start getting myself together. That's when I went back to school. That's when I started. You know, you get away from the homies, you know, and you get a good woman, and next thing you know, you're doing the right things, and all those things that my mother had expectation of me. I noticed that if she were to see me today, that she would approve of the way that I've lived my life. You know, it wasn't until I think at 30 I became a Christian, and in Desert Storm, by the way, I got saved in Desert Storm, and it just kind of changed the game for what the expectation was as a father, you know, as opposed to just as a husband, but as a father. So that's where I kind of took off from there. What you got for me, Doug?
Everett, I just wanted, we have so many Black boys and girls
Mhm.
who are suffering, who have suffered some of the things that you have said and have
Mhm.
turned out to be drug addicts, killers, dope dealers,
Mhm.
or die. And you survive. You thrive. And I didn't mean to cut off, because I want you to finish your story, because we're going to venture off into the cookout shortly. And you know what
Okay.
I mean about the cookout.
I do.
But please finish telling the story of how you were able to strengthen your mind. And that's what it's all about. One must strengthen their mind to go through what you went through and achieve what you are doing today. So I'm going to cut my mic and let you talk.
It's all right. I've been a determined person all my life. I have high expectations, just like I guess my mother did. And I did not want life to beat me. And so all the things that transpired in my life, I called it the negative effect, and the opposite. All right. And so it's like turning generational curses into generational blessings. All right. And so I desired to do that with all my life. Even I drank for probably till about 30 years old. I think in 1992, I stopped smoking and drinking because I didn't want to expose it to my children anymore. I didn't want them to experience it. So for 25 years, now that they gone, yeah, we can have a cold one now. You know, but really, you know, I won't drink more than a beer or two. That's pretty much all I'm going to drink. But you know, the smoking, the drugs, the weed and stuff, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, that was an opportunity for me to clean it up in the military, you know, and change the game. So, you know, for me, it was just a matter. I think I had determination, and I had a support system, you know, and I found I think a woman that my mother would have approved of.
Let's let's veer off into, and I'm going to set this up for you to segue it over, because
Okay.
one thing that my buddy ever told me, he says, man, you you know how to to transition quickly. So I want to I'm going to look at this passage right here. Here it is right here. Okay. This is one of the biggest things that will help our audience understand and get a feel for what we talked about initially at the show, the cookout. This segment, along with Larry, we will have a roundtable discussion on the 4th of July family cookout.
Yeah.
And the lessons to pass on to our younger generation. And this ties in exactly to what you're saying. You had a village that helped raise you. The speech that was given by the recently departed Cicely Tyson, December 18th, 1924. She was born, and she passed away January 28th of this year.
Right.
In the movie called Tyler Perry, Medea Family Reunion. It was a powerful and unforgettable speech. Cast members included Maya Angelou, writer, poet, civil activist, April 24th, 1928 to April 28th, 2014. Lynn Whitfield and Jennifer Lewis. Are you related? Lewis?
No.
Lewis? Okay.
Could be.
Lewis, to name a few, remembering the song, Grandma's Hand. Do you remember that, Dr. Ashley? And I think we remembered, see, Dr. Ashley's the baby, Larry, so I have to ask you if you remember.
All right, it's a bad song.
I can hear that song now. Grandma's Hand. The Black Business Roundtable would like for you to enlighten parents, grandparents, guardians, and most importantly, those kids who were at the cusp of where you were when you changed you were in the fork in the road, and we won't mention any names, with a brother who we both went to school with, two brothers actually. But one of those brothers was supposed to join the Marine Corps when you joined the Marine Corps, but he didn't. He went on to do allegedly accused of second-degree murder and spent time. You went on to become successful in the Marine Corps and become who you are today. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, and those cookouts, those village talks that stuck in the back of your brain that gave, and Dr. Ashley knows a lot about that back of the brain in front of the brain. We might have to have her remind us of that. But how that force changed the course of your life and changed the course of our brother's life. Now, like I said, I won't mention his name. Please elaborate.
Okay. I think, Doug, one of the biggest issues that I think that my brother was facing had to do with the fact that he didn't feel like when he went to the military that he was going to be able to sustain. He didn't feel as though he was going to be able to listen to, honestly, white drill sergeants yelling, screaming, doing stuff like that. He didn't feel, I believe that was the issue, that he didn't feel like he was going to be able to manage to get through that.
How many white people graduated with us?
Zero. Zero. I don't remember any. All right. And so the problem was, if you don't feel like you can go into that environment and survive, then you don't want to go in there. And maybe it had something to do with the fact that I had experience with white people. All right. And I felt like I could go in and be just fine. And there were challenges along the way, don't get me wrong. All right. But I think the difference was, as is with the case with most of our young men today, they don't want to go in the military because they're going to be asked to do things that they don't want to do. But when you're at a crossroads, like you said, when you're at a fork in the road and you have two choices, I mean, it's like a choice, go to jail or go to the military, which was happening a lot about that time. A lot of the guys I went into the military with, they had that option from the judge. You know, you join the Marine Corps, or you go to jail. All right. And so I believe that, you know, in this situation, my brother, and I still love him. All right. And I think we would have had a go of it, but he had to make a choice and I had to make a choice. And that's really what it boils down to, my brother. It boils down to choices and decisions. It boils down to when you go back over your life and you consider the things that you have experienced, and you reflect on them, you realize that everywhere along the way you made choices. All right. And had you made the opposite choice, you would have been gone a different way, a different, a different road you would have taken. So that's what I believe it is with regards to that. Now, getting to the cookout. Yeah, I was listening to, I got our direction. And so I went and listened to a video on the Cicely Tyson and the movie. Then when she was talking in the movie, and this is what she said. She said, "Young Black men, take your place. Mm-hmm. We need you. Your sons and daughters need you." Do you understand what I just said? You were sold off and had no choice, yes. But now, it is time to take your place. Now, starting now, young Black women, you are more than your thighs and your hips. You are beautiful, strong, powerful. I want more from you. Take your place, starting now. That's what she said.
Larry, since we have the doc back on, Doctor, can you take a couple of minutes and tell our audience how you may not reach all those kids and those young people, but if you reach one, you are successful. So can you elaborate for a couple of minutes on that statement by Cicely Tyson in that movie? Thank you.
Well, I think the late great Cicely Tyson in that scene is really affirming the worth of young Black boys and Black girls beyond stereotypes. And unfortunately, again, that starts at home or in other places where you can be nurtured. And whether it's your actual home, the people in it, or the community that you create. Brother Larry, as you said, other people's parents were also your surrogate parents. So there was a collective affirming. Social media is a beast. Let me speak about it. I've been on Instagram now for 2 years. I was a part of the Facebook generation, as in being an undergrad. I was one of those, being a Howard University student, we were one of the 50 universities that were tapped to participate in the pilot of almost, 15 plus years ago in Facebook. But Instagram and other social media sites where there are selfies and twerking and nudity without even consent. There's a lot of pressure driving the image of, again, connection, what's cool. We all remember going to school and you would leave school there. Whatever happened after 3 o'clock or whatever, and you hopefully live to fight another day. But now with the social media cycles, there's a lot of messaging, implicit and explicit messaging on what derives worth. What is worth? For young women, body image is a big deal. So when Cicely Tyson is talking about you're more than your shape, you're more than your body parts, you actually contribute to society. Again, that is a strong message that needs to be reinforced, but also know that your daughter or niece or granddaughter, you may be affirming her in the household, but you need to also prepare her for the warfare that happens in other places.
Amen.
Television, magazines, again, right now, as of recently, there was, I have to call it out because I'm a sister. There was a social media video showing over 20 African-American women who were traveling back from the Dominican Republic, and they needed wheelchairs to assist them because many of them had undergone, it was assumed to have undergone cosmetic surgery to enlarge their buttocks, which is called a Brazilian butt lift. We are now the face of plastic surgery and of objectification, a body type.
Yep.
But the whole community is responsible for that.
Right.
Because we have to know that when you have the music that highlights, as we should, various body sizes, but brick houses and this and this and that, and this shape, that your youth, the children, are listening. In addition to that, brothers, there's a powerful meme that I saw on social media that I'm glad that people in the community are starting to say. They're saying you're still a man even if you haven't shot a gun, even if you haven't taken a life. You are still a man.
Yeah.
You are worthy of respect. That's not a sign of manhood. So I
Right.
think it really comes down to really thinking about, what are your children consuming? What messages and values are you passing down? And then what messages might your children be receiving when they're outside of your care?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Yeah.
Everett, continue on, but I wanted our audience to understand how important it is at these cookouts to not just talk about basketball and baseball and football, but talk about where you going when you graduate from high school, what
Right.
kind of job you can get, etc. So thank you very much.
And that's what I was going to lead into as well. What does she mean? She says young Black men. All right. And you break that down, you start to define what we're really talking about. You start off with men. And what exactly is a man? And identifying what do you call a man? Because often we look at men, and it depends on who you're talking to. Our young people, they don't understand that a man is a person who is responsible, who is accountable for himself, first of all. Right. And I think that that's a big challenge. I think that's where, we start, because like you were saying, a lot of young men think it's, I didn't shoot my gun, or sex, or, one thing or another. But it never really goes back down to being held accountable for who you are at the age of 18, or whenever you decide to be responsible for yourself. Then it goes on to talk about take your place. What is she talking about when she say take your place? What's your place? What exactly is your place? All right. And we as men, we do have a place. All right. We have a responsibility. Now, I'm a Christian man, so I believe that as a man, that I'm a king. All right. And I believe that as a king, I have a responsibility, especially, and I'm going to go to the married man. I have a responsibility to be a provider and to be security, I guess. I say a provider, and to be a protector and a fighter. As a man, I also am a priest. All right. And my responsibility is to go to my God and talk to my God about my family, and then go to my family and talk to my family about my God. I'm an intercessor. So that's my job, to intercede on their behalf. Finally, as a prophet, my responsibility is to know God's word and to teach that. Now I'm talking about a kingdom man. That might be different than a man, but funny thing, you cannot take your finger and poke it in any part of Black history and not find the church there. And so we often tend to run from the church because we're not ready, all right, to find out who our inner man is. But we got to stop doing that, because if we want to resolve this problem, we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to know our history. We're going to have to go back to where we began. And what we're going to find out is the church was a part of it. But that's just for me. I don't know what your listeners feel like or think, but I know that for me, when I'm mentoring, that's the only, I'm going to talk about God. And I know a lot of kids, and even in the school, there are ways to communicate what your belief is and let kids decide what they want to do for themselves. So when you say take your place, we have a place, we have a responsibility to, I said, to put God first. We also need to learn how to operate. I call it the art of excellence. It's accountability, it's respect, and it's training. We have to be equipped. All right. I can't say accountability enough, because what I see in our young people is they don't want to be accountable. All right. I also, don't get me started about the system, the educational system. All right. The public school system. All right. Because we're not preparing them for anything but failure. These are failure factories. All right. And what we're seeing is that in a lot of cases, we're not doing them of any service. When we see our young people try to move from one grade level to the other, and we know that they are failing at every grade level, at every class, at every subject matter that they take, yet we pass them anyway. We don't provide any kind of infrastructure for them, all right, when they get to the next grade level or the next level secondary education, all right. And it's no wonder that so many of them fail out in a year or two after they get to high school. And so that becomes a challenge as well. Mm-hmm.
Larry, before you let's take a 2-minute break. I'm going to give our sponsor and a couple of our shows a little acknowledgement. Let you catch your breath. But let me tell you, brother, you are knocking it out of the park.
Thanks, bro.
The cookout is where these things need to be discussed.
Yeah.
We've had a year to not see each other, so these kids are laying idle, and like you said, they're becoming stupider. So, people on this podcast, I hope you are listening, our audience, how important it is to get that message out to those young people. I want to thank Donnie Glover and the BlackUSA.news and BeMoreNews.com for allowing Black Business Roundtable podcast show to get into the live and the home of people across America. And from what I understand, we're going across the world. So keep up the good work. Donnie Glover, we love you and we appreciate you. You've been doing this for decades. Now you had a wagon. Now you got horses that are going to pull that wagon into the next generation. Second off, I want to give my sister Tamara Brown and her co-host Nicole on Sister Biz. It comes on every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. Be sure to chime in because Sister Biz is all about biz, sisters. Last but not least, Black USA Crypto News with my brother, Kamal Hubbard, on Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Kamal is also the Civil Rights Officer for the San Mateo County Transit District. He is an amazing brother who highlights the opportunity and helps the San Mateo County Transit Authority, Transit District, make sure that if they are qualified, competent, and capable Black men and women own business, that they get a piece of the pie in San Mateo County, California. Kamal, I'm also going to say assalamu alaikum, my brother. So, Larry, please continue on, sir.
Okay. We were talking about how our young people are just really not. I don't know if they're not abreast. I think they're not abreast, and the problem I think that they have is they have no confidence in what they're doing, and they have no confidence because they have been left behind. See, to really understand this, I think we have to see the whole model. And when you realize that these kids, they have been failing since second grade, all right, if not sooner, all right, and nobody has picked them up. We tend to get them on a pacing guide and keep them there, all right, and whether you know what you're doing or not is irrelevant in a lot of classrooms, all right. It was a thing that I had to stop the ball and say, for the next 3 months, we're gonna do initial assessment. For the next 3 months, we're gonna find out where you at, and then we're gonna catch you up, or else you're gonna be doing this forever. You begin to hate math or whatever subject you're doing. I taught a lot of math. You begin to hate it, and the only thing you do is watch the clock. You're not paying any attention to what's being taught because you can't keep up. I think that what do you talk about at the 4th of July cookout besides the food and stuff? All right, think about all the things that we've been through over the last 18 months. All right, the pandemic has been crazy. We got tests going, we got vaccines going, can get vaccines, can't get vaccines. There's Trump and his antics and all the stuff that he took us through, the ride he took us for. George Floyd and the murder, all right, on TV murder, which took place on video. Black Lives Matter protests, all right. All these things have happened since the last time we got together. How about the Capitol insurrection? All right, which took place as well. And then you got Congress, you got House of Representatives, in Congress that are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All right, and everything is. We got one big old. And so now we're getting back together. We're not accustomed to really being with each other. I'm a little leery about taking my mask off. You know what I mean? And because you don't know who's got the shot, who doesn't have the shot. And that's a lot of things. That's, can we just bypass that? Do we just bypass that and just go back to our lives? I would suggest not. I think that at some point there are some things that you get with your friends, you talk about, and you want to cover. But what about the growth? What did you learn? How did you grow in the last 18 months? Did you do anything? Did anything change? What did you learn? I think that's an issue too. All right. There should be a level of accountability for that as well. How do we as people move forward now? As a Black people, how do we move forward? Do we go back to doing what we was doing after seeing everything that has taken place? Is that what we do? How do we fix the broken stuff?
I would like to say this since you paused. Mm-hmm. We need to get involved.
Yes, we do.
At the beginning of the show said I was back in 2016 became chair of labor and economics for the NAACP. I got on the DA's campaign race to make sure we got a DA in there who are not locking up our young brothers and sisters, giving them a record so that they cannot get good paying jobs. So I was part of that for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I've been a part of the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee for the last 5 years. I've been a part of the selected to be on the City of Oakland mm-hmm. Community Policing Advisory Board. And let me tell you something. I had an issue just recently. I called the police and they didn't even come help me. And I'm on the Policing Advisory Board. Man threatened to kill me. Mm-hmm. But what the point I'm making here, if I were a white man calling the police saying that a Black man was getting ready to kill me, they'd have had SWAT here within 30 seconds. I had to call the police 4 times. The judge issued a order that's protecting me right now, and I won't go into that. But the point I'm making here, if you do not have a seat at the table, then you are on the menu for those people who are sitting at the table. Every time I go to a political function, I go to Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce is another organization that our people need to get involved with. It may not be Oakland African American Chamber. It may be San Francisco African American Chamber of Commerce. It may be New York African American Chamber. But get involved because you have power with numbers. Get involved. And last but not least, go to your city council meeting. Go to your county board of supervisors meeting. If you don't get involved, don't get mad when political people make decisions that aren't in the best direction for people of color. So when you're sitting at home watching basketball, baseball, football, you need to be down at finding out what legislations are coming in that's going to affect economics in our community. What politicians are going to be giving that money to people who look like us on the screen here, or as it's been done in Oakland, 86 cents of every dollar is given to the white man. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think that really our focus has to be on changing people, changing families, changing communities, and changing nations. We need to find resources, all right, that are available out here. We need grants. We need programs, all right, after school programs, all right. You need time to be able to spend with young people in order to develop them, all right. You can even do, I think I was talking about it once before on the show where we were talking. I was saying something about being able to use class time during school time, all right, to create programs, because there's a program, Avid, if you haven't seen it, Avid program, that you can utilize a program like that and have 180 hours a year, 720 hours over their academic career, high school academic career, to mentor them, to help them find what it is that they need to do. Because our children, I'm sorry, the problem is that they're not successful, and they know they're not successful linguistically, logically, they know that. And so they give up. They give up and they choose sport or something else that they can do. Most of the time for our young Black Americans, African Americans, is sports, and they just they live in the sports until their senior year, and then they realize that they've wasted all that time. All right, they're not getting a scholarship. All right, they're not going to college. They you know, their progress reports don't mean anything. All right, they haven't finished their A through G requirements. All right, and there's just a big issue with that problem, and then they're stuck, and they go home and they have nothing to do. I mean, I watch this happen every single year.
Larry, let me interject for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd, the man who was hung, who was murdered on national TV, or on a video which was played nationally and internationally. He played sports, didn't have a good academic background.
Mm-hmm.
But when he hurt himself, what happened to him? If you know, and if you don't, I can tell you.
Well, it probably went to drugs. I mean, I knew he was Stephen Jackson's friend. I knew that they were boys. Yeah, so I know. And I mean that's happening everywhere. As a matter of fact, that's what kids do. If you stay connected to the high school kids, like I mentor kids, and you see that's actually what's happening everywhere.
Tell our audience what you in your community, which is one in the country, did for our African American boys and girls. Please elaborate on that.
I'm sorry. Refresh my memory.
When you guys took over the school, the high school.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah, I did my homework.
But it has to do with poor educations. All right. There was a program. It's called Parent Trigger Law and Parent Revolution, and it came out just for a minute, and it was out when No Child Left Behind was out. And what was happening is schools that were underperforming had an opportunity to challenge. If you had 3 years of low performance, you could challenge the school district, and you could.
Larry, you going in and out. Larry, you're going in and out. Try to say, because I want our audience to hear what you have to say.
I'm running out of battery. Give me a sec. Sorry, guys. I thought that was you that had the problem, not me. Hang on. Oh, boy.
While Larry's just getting his audio together, I just want to highlight, just because I'm passionate about sports and I think it can be an asset. And we know in the Bay Area and throughout, youth sport can actually be preventative, but we do need to highlight scholar athletes or student athletes. But more importantly, I think what we also need to do are expose our youth to other jobs besides being a direct athlete. So there's coaching, there's sport marketing. Again, there's, being an agent. So there are other avenues, because we know that even if someone does receive a Division I or Division II scholarship, that only a small, like 7% of those individuals actually continue on in their sport, even less than that if we're talking about female student athletes, which I did research on.
Right.
So again, there are other avenues within sport besides just being that next Dame Lillard. And it would be great if we also had early exposure to that as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I hadn't mentioned this, but I'm a high school basketball coach of 7 years. I was a varsity basketball coach and football. Did football as well. My children are all athletes. One of my children went to UC Berkeley and played football for 3 years. The other one went to Cal State East Bay, and he played basketball for 2 years. My daughters, both of them, are student athletes as well, but they decided not to play when they got to college at San Jose. But you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. And that was kind of what I wanted my son to do instead of try to pursue the NFL. He had so many contacts at Berkeley that he had opportunity. Everybody's getting his autograph. He had more opportunities to connect, to network with the people there instead of and it would have been a beautiful thing for him. But kids, they want to do what they want to do. So there goes the challenge. I'm sorry, where was I, you guys? I don't remember where I was at. I'm sorry.
Taking over the school. Doug had asked you to talk a little bit more about what happened taking over the school.
That's right. If you pull this up, you'll get it. It went nationwide. We had channels 7, 2, 3, 7, 2, 4, 5. We had all of them at our school on a regular basis because we were the only school that successfully took over. I was at the time I was the principal. No, actually, I had just retired. Right, and we had challenges. I had a group of teachers that were. I'm trying to find a nice word to use to describe what was happening. They were in their latter years. They were more interested in trying to manipulate the system, the union, the I think it was ADTA, yeah, the union, and not teach, then teach. They were in a class. I took a school. I bypassed a good school to take a tough school on the other side of the tracks. All right, and I took the school as the new principal, and they were trying not to teach kids. I mean, this kid had, what was it, 66% Hispanic, 25% African American. Most of our kids were coming from Nickerson Gardens and Jordan Downs and San Bernardino City. All right. And so we read, and so you know what I'm talking about. And they were coming up there because when you come up here, there are homes up here, brand new homes, 5-bedroom homes, brand spanking new. And if you are foster a parent, and you can take as many homes as depending 2 kids per room. Right, that's how many foster kids you can take, and that's good. $2,600 is about what they were getting paid, and not to mention that you get all the other benefits as well. So they were taking the kids up there, Section 8 in the houses, and they were moving in, and it was just a big party. But the kids were struggling. So I think that just the whole situation is bad. And I hate to see our children not being taught anything. If you go on TV, you'll see, I mean, if you go on the internet and pull up, what's the name of it? They made a movie about it. Geez, it'll come back to me. I'm sure it will, because we went to see it. My pastor and I went to see it. The reviews, the opening. However, the challenges that we're facing with the school was that they didn't care, and they didn't want parents around. Our parents, a lot of them were freshly tatted, coming back from prison or whatnot, and so I struggled with a lot of parent teachers who did not want dads in the classrooms, so I start walking them in the classrooms. But you see the difference of what happens when young people, kids, babies, have their fathers with them, walking them to school, and I would pull them in, and I made it our little haven. We're playing, we're playing music over the speakers in the mornings. I'm outside greeting all the kids, because I was more of a teacher's principal. I'm sorry, a kid's principal. So I was trying to engage them. So, we got Aretha Franklin playing, RESPECT is bumping. And, like I said, I got 66% Hispanic and 25% African American. Well, there were some that were trying to wreck that and trying to ruin that. But I mean, it was a very joyous time to be able to put together interventions where I was able to go out and do the Pledge of Allegiance first, and then go see my own class, because I built an intervention and developed a group called GROW. And GROW represented give your best, respect your world, own your choices, work hard, and listen carefully. All right, now let me hear you growl, And so we would do that. And I asked the teachers, I said, give me your 3 toughest kids from the 6th grade, from the 5th grade and the 4th grade, and there's 3 teachers per. So I had about 25 kids in there. And it was amazing, what happens when you're there on the scene. Did we talk about this last time? I thought we talked about this last time. I don't know if we did or not.
Well, Larry, we're coming up on the closing hour, so I'm going to get a couple of shots out here. Mm-hmm. But may I ask you, Everett's going to be gone for the next couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks with family things. Mm-hmm. May I ask you, because I grew up with you, I know your heart. Yeah. You know my heart. Yeah. We grew up in the same hood. Right. Now we're doing good. Mm-hmm. I think that with your stories and your perspective, and my stories and my perspective, and Dr. Ashley's psychological uh,
Mhm.
ammunition,
Mhm.
we could change a lot of cookouts. We could change the talk of, hey, how many yards did you run last season? To what's your GPA to get into college? And if you don't plan to go to college, what apprenticeship program do you want to get into to get a trade,
Mhm.
a good trade that'll take care of your you and your family to make these boys, and as you said so eloquently, how to make them men, because we are lacking men and we're lacking women who respect our men, and the women don't respect themselves.
Yeah.
It takes shows like this to target those type of situations. Would you humbly take my invitation? Can I humbly ask you to come back on the show the next couple of weeks to help us educate our business people, starting to teaching our people from, as you said, the second grade on up to owning their own business? Can I ask you to help me?
I would love to continue to do what we're doing. Leadership, I'd love to do it every day, though, as opposed to just the cookouts. And the truth of the matter is, if we don't have somebody at the cookouts to lead, then we're not going to be able to get what we need. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So we at the cookout, we're going to need somebody at the cookout to teach.
Right.
You know, and I just think that might be the challenge, is that we're going to need somebody there to provide. But really, I hope and pray that we can find a way to intervene, to jump into the school system, and actually, because they know that they can't handle the problems that they have there now. They know very well that they don't have an answer for these problems. All right. And to be able to walk in and to communicate what the issues are, what the problems are, and what possible solutions may be, is what they need. I needed it and I couldn't find it. That's what they
And
need.
that is so important what you said. We kind of stop focusing on the problems because the problems are right in front of us.
Yeah.
We need to start, as you said, as you being a teacher, a Marine, and a principal. We need to come up with solutions. So I want to segment into thanking Magnolia Engineering and Construction, a Black woman-owned engineering and construction company, one of less than 10 in the nation. Second, I want to thank Philip Harris for creating the jingle that we keep hearing when we pull up Magnolia Engineering and Construction. And Philip Harris is a proud member of the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Visit Philip's website at Philip Harris, or excuse me, PhilipLNHarris.com. Second, I want to make sure that we acknowledge Donnie Glover. Donnie, you have created a platform that allows us to give the real Black USA.news. Thank you, Donnie Glover. And congratulations on your new book. Larry, can you show us the book, please?
Absolutely.
Larry has a copy.
I'll be done next week.
All right. I am Black Wall Street. Thank you, Donnie, for bringing that to our attention. And he also wrote the book called Unapologetically Black. And like I said, I can't wait till I can find my next Klan, the Ku Klux Klan meeting, so I can wear my shirt and go like, I'm apologetically Black. I can see that one. Third, I'd like to also thank Chap and Friends. They come on every Monday. And Party Marty, Let's Talk on Tuesday on the blackusa.news and bemorenews.com. And there are also products and presentation from Donnie Glover. Also, I want to give special thanks, and I always give special thanks to Dr. Ashley Coleman. You are, and I've known you all your life. If anyone would have told me that I'd be working with you and you'd be my doctor 30 or 20 years ago, I'd have been laughing like a baby. I have not enjoyed any better doctor than you. And my auntie, my uncle who raised you, my family who nurtured you and gave you this wisdom to give us the psychological power to bear the brunt of the fight that the man is bringing to us. You are a jewel, you're a diamond, you're a pearl, and we love you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd also like to say to our local ambassador featuring wines from Bassett Collection and the director of Mini Pal Event, tasting and sales and corporate gifts as well. We all love wine at any time, but drink responsibly because CHP, you can get put over by driving while black. So if you black, don't drink while driving because the chances of you getting pulled over are very high, especially during the holiday. Yeah. Specialty and tantalizing the most discerning connoisseurs. Feel free to reach out to Mina Pal Avon and have virtual tasting rights in the comfort of your own home. Telephone number is 510-372-5677. And the number once again is 510-372-5677. We'd also like to thank Janani Ramachandran, Esquire. And I'm going to take a whole minute on this sister. And I gave her a sister pass because she truly, I feel, will look out for Black businesses in Alameda County in AD District 18. We have got to start electing people who are going to look out for people who look like us on the stage here. Because if you want a successful business, you got to get those government contracts. If you want a mediocre business, like we were talking about at the beginning with CRC, Construction Resource Center, then you'll stay in small residential cottage houses. But there's opportunity for all people, but we have to have politicians who are in place that is going to fairly disperse those monies. We don't want to look like the city of Oakland, where you have 86 cents of all contracting dollars going to white men. 86 cents of all Oakland, California contracting dollars go to white men. Let's start now to put an end to that. Last but not least, Dr. Ashley, we are working with less than 2 minutes. Would you like to give a minute before I close this out? And Larry, would you like to give a minute, 30 seconds before I close this out?
Just appreciating the conversation and highlighting resilience, listening to one another, just taking interest as you convene safely this weekend. Just hoping all of our listeners have a wonderful, enjoyable, and safe 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. I don't have to have my double shot of Hennessy. You just gave it to me. Thank you. Larry, and my fill-in co-host, my right-hand man, and I got now I love to say this, I got the Marines with me now.
All right.
I got the sergeant with the Marine, and a teacher, educator, and a principal. Give us a 30-second word around up, Larry.
I simply wanted to say that, I think it's very important what we're doing here. And I think that to be able to reach out and to communicate what some of the challenges are that we face in our amongst our people and our communities. Let's take this real. Let's take this and be responsible with it. As far as I'm talking to parents now, I'm talking to, those who have children, those who, desire more out of life, because I'm tired of being at the bottom. You look at the Asians, you look at even Hispanics, all right? They have a process, all right? And what they're doing is, through associations, they are creating the model that we are learning about with Black Wall Street. Same thing.
I would like to wrap up this awesome show. You know what? If you want to be an eagle, you need to fly with eagles. And that just happens to be all my guests are eagles. So let's fly.
Yeah.
Let's fly.
That's right.
Fly.
That's it right there.
Thank you, audience, for tuning in. And remember, together we can listen, learn, and share because I know you care.
All right.
This is Doug Blacksher of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless and good night. Thank you all.